Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new edition, a special Three Amigos edition of Newsmakers TV. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, May 16th. I'm delighted to welcome back to the program my friends and colleague, Nick Welsh, executive editor and angry poodle of the Santa Barbara News Press. And
New
John.
press. Yeah. All
Oh,
right.
ooh,
Wait a
interesting.
minute. No one
Hey,
Well,
even
man.
told me.
Oh
How did
my
this
God.
happen?
I never knew.
we didn't know. Mary, I'm the Santa Barbara Independent. We'll get to the news press in a few minutes. That ought to be interesting. And Josh Molina, man of many hats, including host of the popular Santa Barbara Talks podcast. All right, I plead illness. I'm not feeling so great, so you got to cut me some slack on the news press thing. Although perhaps it was on my mind. Anyway, let's talk a little local news. I guess the biggest story of the week: the Santa Barbara Board of Supervisors voted 3-1 to phase out future oil and gas development, which sounds like kind of a big deal, is certainly being celebrated that way in the environmental community. Nick, what does it all mean?
Well, we're going to find out what it means, down the road. But right now, it's sort of like a marriage proposal. Nobody has found out where the marriage is going to happen or when it's going to happen, but it has been declared. In this case, to beat the analogy, that the supervisor voted, we don't want any more oil onshore. And we're not going to allow any new wells to be drilled, and we're going to phase out the existing ones. Now, how they're going to do that and all that is going to take 2, 3 years to hammer out. And, you know, obviously, what's happening here is a the urgency of climate change is sort of, unless you're really beholden to a certain worldview, is kind of inescapable. And B, I think this is part of the Trump response. The reaction to Trump and the White House. It's like, really, what are we going to do in response? I'll tell you what we're going to do in response. And it was really driven by Laura Capps and Supervisor Chair and Joan Hartman. And Joan Hartman, feels with a passionate urgency. We need to do something now. This is the existential threat of the moment. We cannot not do something.
So
And
she didn't recuse herself on this one, huh?
this does not affect Sable Oil or the pipeline.
Hey, all right, so just to level set for a second. So, according to your reporting, we have somewhere just north of 1,000 active oil wells in the county.
Right.
Uh, and this would require them to be closed, yes or no? And secondly, this does not affect offshore oil operations, correct?
It does not affect offshore operations. It does not affect Sable, though I've heard some people express hope or thought that it might. My understanding is no, it doesn't, and there's nothing in it that does. B, uh, it means that the existing wells will be phased out. Now, one idea is they could be declared legal non-conforming, and so over time
Oh, we
they would
heard that
have.
a lot with cannabis.
Yeah, I mean, here's the way it would work. They would say it's legal non-conforming, and then they would amortize. They say, look, we're going to give you X amount of years. Now, some people who are more cynically inclined had pointed out that if you the number of years that the amortization would go, somewhere maybe 20 years, who knows where it would be allowed to phase out. It's probably about how many years are left in the pipeline's life anyway. So it may not achieve this great savings of greenhouse gas emissions like the 350,000 metric tons a year we're hearing about. The other thing about this whole debate that was really quite mind-boggling, and I still don't really get it, You have our friend, the erstwhile Peter Rupert, economist to the stars, economist to Henry Yang, and he gets out there, and if you listen to him, the second-hand, third-hand, fourth-hand smoke of this is going to be, hundreds of millions of dollars that the county of Santa Barbara will not be having, and thousands of employees who will be out of work. If you listen to the experts brought in by UCSB, by the Enviros, I think there's 170 employees who might theoretically lose their jobs directly. And the county of Santa Barbara, if you just look at it in terms of tax revenues, it now collects just $1 million a year in tax revenue. 1 million.
That's all.
1 million, that's all. And
that's
out of a
more cannabis.
That's out of a budget of 1.6 billion.
Yeah.
So what the facts are of what's at stake could not be further apart. The other thing that was sort of dramatic about it was how upset Bob Nelson got.
Supervisor Nelson.
He's a supervisor who represents the Orchid area, and he represents a district where about 80% of the wells exist. So, not surprisingly, he is unapologetically in support of oil. And he's just saying, you sucker punched me. This is a snow job. This is a bunch of BS. And you snuck it up on us. And if we did this to the Enviros, you'd be howling at the moon for the next 18 months.
Yeah. Josh.
Lori Capps had a pretty, it was there if you wanted to see it. And Lori Capps' attitude was, they do have more lobbyists than God. And if they weren't paying attention, that's on them.
That's on them. Yeah. Josh, when we were both young men sitting in the school board listening to Kerry Matsuoko, I pointed to Laura Capps and I said, Josh, keep your eyes on that young woman. She's going to be a star. And you said, no, and you kind of blew it off. But but now here she is.
Then I got a text message then I got 30 text messages from Laura asking me why I thought that.
But this is a big deal for her, at the very least. I mean, it's been the agenda that she's embraced from the very beginning in public life. And whatever, how many a slip between the cup and the lip on how this thing comes out, as Nick points out. But it's certainly, as a political perception issue, a big deal for her. But she and Bob Nelson were kind of these strange bedfellows alliance now, so they're a little falling out here. What's your takeaway on all this?
Well, Bob is trying very hard in places where he can to come across as likable because he wants to run for a larger office, likely Greg Hart or Assembly. So he's trying to at least soothe a few people so he doesn't have a whole lot of enemies. So I think that was part of his play with Laura Capps earlier, is finding some common ground. And of course, it helps Laura too if she can help, or if she can find common ground with some conservatives if she has aspirations someday, although I think she's pretty comfortable where she's at. But Laura, the gods have smiled upon Laura politically because she turned around a very narrow defeat, and then the next year was elected, and then her arch enemy was bounced from the board, and she's really being a strong leader and using this position of chair to drive home many of her points. And so this is a big environmental win for her.
No, it is. And to go to your point, I talked to her after, she was just saying, look, and I am acutely aware of the time limits that I have to get anything done. I think given Biden's performance or non-performance and Kamala Harris's defeat, I think a lot of Democrats are saying, we actually got to deliver some goods. And at a certain point, we actually have to do something, and it's not enough to do something. You have to also look like you're doing something. So if you do one and not the other, it's not good enough. You have to actually deliver some goods.
Well, yeah, and hey, if you look at this national polling, the Democrats are so in the toilet. It's like 26% approval of the Democratic Party. And it's not just, the Trump people or independents even, it's the Democrats. And rank and file grassroots Democrats are really angry because they're not seeing enough aggressive pushback against the Trump administration and the kind
and this
of
is
they're doing.
For them. This is one where you go, okay, we'll see what comes out at the end of it. But right now, we're taking I mean, oil has been in Santa Barbara for 145 years Sumac obviously used it, but as a commercial industrial enterprise, it's been about 145 years in Santa Barbara County.
I think Josh covered the beginning of that in BizHawk, if I remember. Maybe.
And
that was with Jesse. That was even before that.
But it's sort of like the poor oil we will always have with us, whether we like it or not. This is the first time the county supervisors or any elected officials have said, And so it is a significant, even if it's performative and a gesture, it's a highly significant.
Yeah. I just checked with my man in Las Vegas, and apparently the odds on there being legal action against this are quite high, around
About 3,000%.
3,000%.
But here,
but there's a new suit. Didn't you have a piece that Sable just sued the county already on the pipeline matter?
Yeah, Sable. Sable has sued the county, saying that the county's 2-2 vote on whether or not the transfer of permits from Exxon to Sable to go forward. Was harming them and Exxon. Exxon is stuck holding the bag and legal responsibility for a property it no longer owns, and Sable can't develop a property that it does own. Now, the reality is there's a lot of hurdles Sable has yet to cross with other government agencies. So this isn't stopping them from doing anything yet, but at some point, if they don't get it, it might.
But they're probably still digging out there
They're probably still digging, and everybody is. The milk cartons are all around Santa Barbara County. Where is Rob Bonta?
And where is Margot Lovely? All right. We can ask that one too. All right, Josh, I want to talk a little homeless, speaking of issues that are always with us. The city has the Faro Center, or as I like to call it, Fostering Access, Resilience, and Opportunity, world's worst acronym.
Wow, I can't believe. Did you have that written in front of you?
Yeah. You think I remembered it? Yeah. Yes, I do. And of course, it was opened with much ballyhoo, led by Nick, and but run into some problems, and they've now sent a strongly worded legal letter to the vendor. Is it the contractor who's operating the thing, saying, kicking them out, or what exactly is going on?
I believe Faro also means like light or lighthouse. So they're creating an acronym that would also have a double entendre and a different language meaning. So that's how we got that too, Jerry. So apparently, as I understand it,
my acronym is TCBH, too clever by half.
So this Faro Center opened about a year ago, and so since that time, the businesses and the nonprofit organizations that are on Chapala next to them have said that there have been a lot of complaints, or they've complained, a lot of issues. We have clients. This is a place in the daytime for homeless people to go to for services. And they've alleged in a letter written by an attorney that there's trespassing, there's harassment of clients, there's people urinating, there's people spreading
And
feces.
it's on behalf of another nonprofit that's
So
operating.
next to the Faro is the Jody House, and the Jody House treats people with brain injuries, and so they have their own services they're providing there, and they're saying that there's a lot of incidents, and so they have documented this, and they are, they have an attorney, and so the city basically is saying, wait a minute, we can't really have these kinds of issues going on. SB Act manages the program. And so they are basically saying we're going to have to intervene and figure out a way to stop this. So they basically gave them notice that you're not going to be managing the program because the city separately has a lease with a property owner who's ready to boot these people out if these problems don't get fixed. And the city says we don't want to lose this Faro Center, so we're going to have to change the management.
So the city is at risk of losing the whole operation if they don't do something
At
about
least
it.
at that site, and finding a site is difficult. They had similar services over at Alameda Park in the past, and of course there were complaints there, and it's outdoors, and it's a different sort of venue. And so, by the way, I talked to Jody House, but there are other businesses on that block who are also upset, and I've seen those emails. And so, on one hand, there's a lot of people seeking those services. On the other hand, where is a good place to put something like that? That's very close to downtown and next to a nonprofit where you need kind of some peace and quiet when you're, having your services.
Nick,
Yeah, I think
your story framed it, Nick, as being a victim of their own success, which I thought was the ultimate silk's purse from a sow's ear. But
no. If you read the goddamn piece, let me. What I meant by that is when the city bought the property with this idea in mind, the estimate at that point was they would have about 35 people go in a day. The numbers are getting about twice that. So they're getting way more people than it was initially sort of calibrated for. And some of them are, what we're seeing is a lot of the people who are on the streets have been on the streets for a lot longer. What we're also seeing is that the mental health issues are a lot more acute. The addiction issues are a lot more acute. So it's not just more people, but more people with more intense, long-standing challenges. And challenges are one of those nice euphemisms for if you happen to be Jody House or somebody next door, and all of a sudden there's somebody inside your property and won't leave until the cops come. How many times does that have to happen before you kind of say enough? So it has been an issue, and I think that SBX, the group that has it, their history is so they are big picture thinkers, and they're really great at that. It's one thing to have big picture thinking. It's another thing to be like boots on the ground operation. And they are kind of finding out, I think it's the hard way, they have to really run that tight. And other people can do it. I know you are a pessimist, Jerry, and think, well, what the hell did you expect? Of course it happens. If you go over to Santa Barbara Street, Good
I
Samaritan.
think my exact words are, "What a shock! Who could have predicted this?"
Yeah. But if you go to Good Samaritan, or actually Dignity Moves operation on Santa Barbara Street on a 1,000 block, they have 35 people living in these little tiny homes. And if you go by there anytime, you never see people hanging out. I mean, the number of complaints you can probably count on one hand. I mean, they run it because it is not an issue for the neighbors. So it can be done. You just have to do it.
So Josh, I know you talked to our great city administrator, Kelly McAdoo. What's going to happen next? They're going to boot the operator out? It sounds like that's all the fingers are pointing in that direction.
Well, I mean, I think they give 30 days notice. And so the idea is they're going to seek other operators, or, SB Act wants to make it work. So
Are
once
there
it
other operators who
Path,
can do
Path is probably the only other one, and they run the Cacique Center, or the center.
That is hardly a shining example of, containing the resident effects.
Yeah, I mean, but even before Path, a long history of issues with that building and that center on the east side. So I think that what Kelly McAdoo says, we need to do a reset. Like, just stop, pause, let's fix this. So I guess theoretically it's possible they can work things out with SB Act with a stronger management plan and then move ahead. At the time that I wrote the story, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I think the thinking was they want to go in a different direction. Now, a sub story to this is that Barbara Anderson, who is, I guess, technically an assistant city administrator, used to work with Rich Sander at SB Act. And there is some, I'm told from my sources, there's some tension there. So that's kind of fueling a little bit of issues behind the scenes.
Defending him or not defending him?
No, not defending him. I think what I've been told by my sources that they don't get along, and there's some tension there in terms of trying to bring some remedy to this situation as well. I went down there, and I tried to I did get some photos. There are some characters in the area, of course. So hopefully they can figure it out. But if you're running a nonprofit next door, of course you're going to be upset.
Well, having been briefly hospitalized with people with traumatic brain injuries, that's a tough audience when you're trying to help people like that, and you got craziness going on around. It's just, I'm not sure anybody thought that through at the front end. Sounds like so. All right, to be determined. We'll see what happens. So with the 30 days the clock's running on the 30 days.
I thought it was August. Well, I thought.
Oh, it's more than 30 days?
Again, I may have misread the fine print, but I thought in the lease, the first sort of opportunity the city has to sort of fish or cut bait is, I think, in August. And so they're on notice that if you don't figure out, if we don't come to some understanding in August, this will be over.
So the letter was less get out than it was fix this, or we'll
it was more fiction, but it was with, I don't think, it was just, and Josh, I think you covered it some, but it's like my understanding is you need to stop operating until you get it fixed. They did not stop operating. And
they have the same lawyer as Sable.
They have the same lawyer as Sable.
Kelly McAdoo originally said you need to do appointment only, no more drop in, and Rich Sanders said no, and so that was like a big no as far as McAdoo's concerned. And then they're like, okay, you got to stop.
Then she didn't just pull that out of the air, but right, according to your story, that's what she did in Hayward.
Yeah, so she talked a little bit about her experience dealing with this in Hayward and how she found success. And so she's trying to model something here based off of what worked in Hayward. So, but it was sort of like you need to stop and we need to figure this out. I thought they said, 30 days, and then August was when they hope to have a new provider in, but we'll see how it plays out. I'll read it either in the Independent or I'll write it. I will figure it out.
Yeah. And then I'll do a media column comparing the headlines. What? But just real quick on homeless, Nick, the governor, this guy is just the worst. I'm just thinking back 2019 in his very first speech. I own homelessness. I am the Mr. Homeless. Now this time he's like, oh, these local people, they won't do anything about homelessness. It's just like Give me a
Well,
break.
this is the second time where he basically has orders. Well, the first time, a number of months ago, he ordered local governments to clean up all the homeless encampments. And obviously, the encampments are an issue. But this time around, he's saying, I'm not ordering you to do it, but I'm giving you a template of an ordinance that allows you to clean them out and get them gone. And oh, by the way, did I mention there's $3 billion in state funding coming down the pipeline
But $3 billion
for,
of more sunk cost money coming down the pipeline.
to help local governments deal with acutely homeless, mentally ill people. And it's highly competitive, and he didn't have to say, and if you want to have a chance at the money, you better do what I say.
But we wouldn't be on the bad list for that, right? Santa Barbara. We've actually done pretty good with the encampments.
Well, we have if you look at the city numbers, which I don't have memorized, but I wrote my article. I mean, it seems like they have cleared out encampments more times than there are actual encampments. And you know, they go in and they clean them out, and then people come back, and it's sort of a whack-a-mole thing. I mean, but the problem is, a lot of cities don't want to do it because where are they going to go? If they're not here, they're going to go somewhere else, and they're not disappearing. People are not being abducted by aliens and taken off into space.
All right. All right. Josh, you're old enough to remember when Councilman Brian Barnwell tried to clean out an encampment once. He got attacked by a dog.
He got bit in the ass by a pit bull.
Bit in the ass, enabling me to run the famous headline, "Dog Bites Man." But so this is another of those stories that is ever with us. And let's turn to yet another, which is the burning issue of the colors and designs of street furniture on State Street for the 9 blocks where there's never anybody going, or at least 6 of them. So the Historic Landmarks Commission had some weighed in on this week, trying to calm down the chaos that the city council began to create 5 years ago this month, I believe.
Yeah, I'm getting my State Street stories confused because we had this one, and then they wanted
the sidewalk, the sidewalk
on State Street as well.
Yeah.
But the outdoor furniture did go to HLC. It's part of the State Street master plan, and the idea is to provide some uniformity to the type of tables and chairs that restaurants primarily put out on State Street, so that they don't put it out and people complain or HLC complain. So they're going through a whole process of colors and materials and styles to go through. And it's one of those things that's more of for a layperson, it's just kind of hilarious to think that all this detail, all this time is spent on the shade of green in the El Pueblo Viejo district. The businesses want to be able to put something out without getting in trouble or without getting fined. So it's a hard story to cover because it's like 9 pages of various materials that they can buy ahead of time and sort of put out there. But it's part of the State Street Master Plan. It goes to the bigger picture of 5 years later. This whole thing is kind of ridiculous in terms of having any sort of calm situation or plan down there. That's not to say anything about Tess Harris or the staff people who are doing their best job, but politically there's a lot of inconsistent direction going on. And of course, 5 years ago in May, the city did this. And
you see what he did there, Nick? He said, this is really messed up. This is not to say anything about my sources, of course, but very nice.
You don't know who my sources are.
Very nice pivot on
that. It's funny. Last night I went to this great concert at the Libero, and we were walking out to the car afterwards, and the friend I was with just sort of absent-mindedly just looked at State Street and just said, poor State Street, and shook her head. And I think I
Oh,
really
there's my
kind of
headline. There's my
that just
headline.
sums it up so
Golden.
much.
Poor
Poor
State Street.
State Street. It wasn't like, God damn it, or what the hell is it? It's just poor State Street. And whatever you think about cars, bikes, this, that, it is. It's just, come on, man. It's just poor State Street.
No, it is. It's like an abused child.
It's like,
It is. So we're gonna get the umbrella canvas colors straight, and that, Josh, that'll probably be the butterfly wing that changes everything, that flaps.
I
But
mean, I think there's a movement toward reopening it, actually, at least a few blocks. I mean, Randy Rouse is not going to give this up. The business community is pushing for it. The commercial real estate brokers, they're the ones that are in the know here. And I think even the most staunch defenders of State Street being open are starting to get a little more skeptical. I mean, it is undeniable, and I've been there at in the morning, afternoon, evening, weekends. It is undeniable that State Street, in the middle of the street, is people on electric bikes and people on skateboards. And to say that that's better, or I guess to say that that's created this, closing State Street's created this Paseo promenade of vibrant energy, people mingling in the street, is just not true. And there's a lot of attitude from
hear
some
that? Take
people.
that, Kristen Snedden.
It is undeniable. I think the city council should hold a meeting at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday on the 500 block of State Street. And I think they should watch it in real time. If nothing else, maybe they should like open it up in the evening, or like have some days when cars. I talked to some businesses recently and they're like, it's a matter of visibility. You know, people want to cruise downtown, go downtown, they see, they'll park, but they're not going downtown because you can't go downtown. But I really think we just need to get simple. The council needs to host a meeting at 2 o'clock and, you know, on State Street, and just watch it and just see it, because it isn't this
Except
utopian.
your friend Izzy and the Democratic Party would, you know, would fill the place with ringers. I'm sorry, Nick, go ahead.
I mean, really, the 400 block is where you really are taking your life in your hand, because those are like where the super fast e-bike guys really do their wheelie races. And they're quite impressive, but you really don't want to be, the chicken will not be able to cross the road there. There'll be a lot of feathers in the air.
Why did the chicken cross the road? He didn't. He was afraid of the electric bike. Okay, I like it. That'll work. So that's interesting, Josh. You're breaking news here. New push to open State Street. Oh, you ought to write that story.
Yeah, I should. I don't know when I'll do it,
but don't tell Nick. He'll get his electric bike legions out in protest. All right, what else we got going on? Nick, are you as impressed as I am with Police Chief Kelly Gordon's ability to recruit new officers? Apparently, we filled almost all those positions that we were so worried about filling.
You know what? I have to say, I don't know the details of that the way I should, but it has been a perennial problem. You know, in trying to recruit cops to come to Santa Barbara, trying to recruit anybody to Santa Barbara is so hard. I mean, trying to recruit doctors here, it's just the fact that she's done as well as she has is quite impressive.
Yeah, and Josh, it looks like there's been more focus on local people, which seems like kind of a common sense idea, but apparently,
you know, even before 2020, after the George Floyd murder, recruitment and retention was a challenge, and then after that, there were people not wanting to come to Santa Barbara or be a police officer. So she said, in the 3 years she's been here, she's worked really hard to target and through recruitment, diversity, through appealing to locals, advertising in different ways, city college, and trying to bring more of a ground up local base of people into the academy. So she made it sound like it was much better, and they did give a presentation. and everyone seems sort of happy with that. And it is 5 years ago. I mean, remember the conversations we were having, and it was a total different world.
Yeah, and
And to go back, they now have enough cops that they actually are patrolling e-bikes riders on State Street, which before they didn't even pretend to try to do because we don't have the troops.
yeah, and then a recent report, there have been very, very, very few incidents of cops misconduct or anything like that. But I must say, if they want to open a can of whoop ass State Street e-bikes, it's okay with me. I
You
don't
condone that, Jerry?
I don't mind. I'm like Trump, it's just it's my guys, it's okay, We'll go there. All right, we got to get out of here, but real quick, Josh, anything new in the sad Liz Hamill case, the mysterious death of the UCSB freshman?
Well, after the big press conference with the private detective and the attorney, and they posted the photo of the last person who was seen with her, a lot of people came forward and identified him. And I guess the UCPD talked to him, but that's kind of where we're at right now. We don't know exactly what was exchanged and said. We don't know why no one called 911 instantly. We don't know what exactly happened, but we do know no arrests have been made. And I know the family, the attorney, the private investigator, they're all very upset. UCPD is kind of not talking to anyone right now. So I think we're kind of waiting for the next big move. The whole thing is very, very odd and mysterious. And once again, UCSB is, silence speaks 1,000 words when it comes to this situation.
Henry Yang, who has time to go bask in Peter Rupert's audience, does not have time to respond to the Liz Hamill affair. All right, who you got on the podcast?
I have Teddy Kabugos, who is the president of Sunstone Winery, and Kaylin Baird, who's the co-founder of Splash Nano. And they are working on, you'll like this, Jerry, although I would urge you not to jump to conclusions. They're working on a hemp beverage, and they are trying to get it legal in California. It is legal in other states, and it doesn't have the THC component of a cannabis beverage. And so anyway, we have a big conversation about what it is and what that
How is
means.
it different than the cannabis beverage he had? Because he had a
Did you get a buzz off it or not?
Well, he doesn't want to do the 100 milligram cannabis like high dose that you'd find in a dispensary. That's not the market Teddy Kabugos wants.
No, he's like a 5.
He wants the 5 milligram, which is basically like if you smoke pot and you drink this, you're probably not going to feel anything. But if you don't smoke pot and you drink this, you might feel like a little bit relaxed. But Teddy and Kaylin want it in grocery stores. They want it anywhere you can buy beer. You should be able to buy this 5 milligram hemp beverage.
Did you taste it?
I have not tasted it. No.
I
It's
have.
not legal,
Well, I
Jerry.
haven't
What was it?
it.
What does it taste like?
You know what? It actually tasted much better than I thought it would taste. I mean, he has some sort of fruit, like watermelon or peach, or and it's like carbonated spritzer water, and the cannabinoid flavor that you expect and anticipate doesn't come. They managed to mask that very effectively, and I can't say I felt any buzz. Now he claims. But he told me when we talked about it.
Did you drink the whole can?
I had the whole can. He said that it was wives think it makes their husbands nicer.
All right, I'm ordering a dozen. Okay.
So that was
That's the greatest brand line in the history of advertising.
it stuck with me.
The bros wouldn't buy it for that very.
But their wives would buy it
Their
for
wives
them.
and girlfriends would.
He's not trying to appeal to druggies. He's trying to appeal to just like a family. If they're picking up a 6-pack of beer, why don't you pick these up? Because it doesn't have the effects that alcohol does or cannabis does. he wants these things
So
sold at Dodger
it's a
Stadium.
millennial who wants to get high, but doesn't want to drive with the kid in the car while they're.
And you're not going to get obliterated. You're not going to get like White Claw or some of that stuff. I mean, it's very mild. I think you would have to drink a lot.
And I got to say, for those of you who want to watch the episode on Santa Barbara Talks on YouTube, Kalen Baird, if you have not met him, he's like the Willy Wonka. He is the product manufacturer. So he's got a Goleta warehouse where he works on these concoctions, like the flavors that Nick mentioned, and how to make it taste good but still have the right ingredients. And he's a scientist, and he's Teddy is brilliant. This guy's brilliant in his own way.
So was Dr. Owsley.
What?
So was Dr. Owsley, the guy who made LSD. Anyway, I'm dating myself with my references, Josh. That's okay. Anyway, so did you get to the warehouse? Is that where you did the interview?
I've been there, and that's why I called it like it is like a factory, because they have the little, he does like gummies and edibles, and the workers are putting them in little containers and everything. It is quite cool. I didn't know Goleta had that, but we did it in studio, so it is not via Zoom, and so it's a very good episode. It's one of my smarter episodes, Jerry.
Ooh, that's a high bar. Nick, you got anything You got any cover stories coming on, or is it all theater and wine and cheese and beer?
I'm thinking I want to do wine and cheese. I think I'm going to go back and do another story about Julia Child, and
it's been kind of soft over there. I mean, you had the Sable cover.
Okay, we had Sable, we had 100 Years of Trump.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
But there is a reason they call it a newspaper. But anyway, be that as it may, maybe there'll be another news operation in town before long, and give you.
They too have seances with Julia Childs and say, "What do you think?"
No, among the 38 newsletters I subscribe to is one from the Pointer Institute, and they cover stuff, and they had a little sad thing this morning about multiple nonprofit operations that were trying to jumpstart local news.
Yeah, I guess that is sort of the new trend line, is that a lot of people were expecting nonprofits to be sort of the life preserver, and they seem to be sinking just as fast as everybody else.
Right. And it's not going to be the state government either, which was supposed to deliver $30 million for local news out of this deal they cut with Google last year for Google stealing everybody's advertising. But the governor had to scale that back because we have such a deficit. Although he didn't scale back the tax credit for the film industry. So go figure. Anyway, all right. Nick Welsh, Josh Molina, thank you so much. Long show, good show, as they say over at the Bulwark. And thank you all for watching. And we'll see you next time on Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Alrighty.